Well, the night is still young, so you may hear some things in the background. Okay, this is the knowledge catalog, and in this video we are going to talk about biological science. So, ayan, kung napapansin mo, meron kang makikita dyan na learning competency, and that is the 12th learning competency for Science 8 biology. And it says, explaining how materials cycle in an ecosystem. So if you want to have a copy of this presentation, you may contact me through my page, facebook.com/knowledge catalog/. So yeah, let's begin. We start up with nitrogen cycle. Familiar tayo sa nitrogen as an element, and that alam natin yung mga basic characteristics niya, say its atomic number and its atomic mass and its name, of course. And we all know that it's non-metal. Now, we also know that it is one of the most abundant elements in our planet. Okay, so paano siya nasa-cycle? Paano siya nagagamit? Okay, it is the 5th most abundant element in the universe, and it makes up to 78% of the Earth's atmosphere. Its relative abundance in the universe is about 0.1%, and its relative abundance in the solar system naman is 0.11%. While it only has traces on Earth, it is abundant in the human body by 3.3%. So kung sa planet yung pinag-uusapan, it is most abundant in the, say, atmosphere, pwedeng dun. Now this guy discovered the element. He was Daniel Rutherford in 1772. It is after a Greek word nitron and genes, which means niter forming. It is a colorless and it is an odorless gas. And in terms of characteristics, ayan siya. Well, you know what those are, so let's just move. So the first process that involves nitrogen is nitrogen fixation, wherein nitrogen gas, or N2, remember that nitrogen gas is N2, okay, makes up most of the gases of the atmosphere, but limits the productivity of most biological processes because it cannot be processed in that form. Hindi siya pwedeng magamit ng mga plants, say for instance, kapag nitrogen gas siya. It has to be converted to ammonia, or NH3 first, through a process called nitrogen fixation. So yeah, nitrogen fixation is fixing nitrogen from nitrogen gas, or N2, into NH3. Okay, so the chemical equation is as follows. So nitrogen gas, and then free hydrogen, and then electrons, and it's going to result to ammonia and hydrogen. Yung triple bonds na nagbabind sa nitrogen gas together requires 16 ATPs and 8 electrons. Now, these are they may seem familiar para sa mga gardener. Kung if you are weeding like by hand, you will see these sa mga roots ng some plants. Because of the huge amount of energy required, only prokaryotes, lightning, and activities like combustion of fossil fuels can facilitate nitrogen fixation. See, it is a very important process. However, it requires a lot of energy. Kaya ang nakagawa lang ng mga to are prokaryotes, or single-celled organisms, usually bacteria ang pinag-usapan natin. Lightning can facilitate it, and even activities like combustion, yan lang yung mga combustion of fossil fuels, yan lang yung mga processes that can fix nitrogen into ammonia. Some nitrogen fixers naman are free living, while others they have a close symbiotic relationship with the host. Okay, this is a rhizobium, which is attached to a root exudating from leguminous plants like pea, clover, and soybean. So, a particular kind of organism that can fix nitrogen attaches itself to host. Usually host plant. Yan. Next one is the gene for this trait is available in most aerobic and anaerobic, as well as aerophilic or termite guts and hypersaline lakes. The diversity of ecosystems suggests a broad range of environmental conditions for a very important ecological process. The next process is called nitrification. In nitrification, it is a process that involves the conversion of ammonia to nitrite. So yung kanina, nitrogen gas or N2 converted to ammonia, NH3, and then this process nitrification is going to convert NH3 into nitrite or NO2, and then to nitrate, which is NO3, exclusively done with oxygen and prokaryotes. Hindi siya pwedeng magawa ng kahit na anong mga eukaryotic organisms. There are two steps with which this happens. So first is yung ammonia gagawing nitrite, and then yung nitrite gagawing nitrate. So for the first process, for the first step, ammonia to nitrite, ammonia oxidizers carry out the process by using ammonia, oxidizing ammonia, by using ammonia monooxygenase, which is a catalyst, to turn it into hydroxylamine, this one, and then water. And then hydroxylamine and water niyan is then converted to nitrite with the use of hydroxylamine oxyreductase. So that is the catalyst. So for this, the catalyst is monooxygenase, and then for this second process is the hydroxylamine oxidoreductase. For the second step naman, nitrite to nitrate is carried out by a completely separate group of prokaryotes known as nitrite oxidizing bacteria, which includes Nitrospira, Nitrobacter, and then Nitrococcus or Nitrospina. So let's go back here and visit kung ano yung ayan. So from NH3 to nitro, ayan, tawag doon, to hydroxylamine, ito siya. Hydroxylamine becomes nitrite. And then from nitrite, the second process, it will be turned into nitrate. Ayan. Ang pwedeng gumawa lang yan is Nitrospira, Nitrobacter, Nitrococcus, and Nitrospina or spina. Ayan. So, basically, yung mga processes na to, as we have observed, siguro are interconnected. So, from nitrogen fixation to nitrification, ayun. However, this one is, it may be quite different with ammonium and nitrite. So, it is a recent reaction involving nitrogen discovered in low oxygen zones in oceans, coastal, and estuarine environments. This process is contrary to the concept of ammonia oxidizers to be exclusive in aerobic environments only. So, pwede rin itong mangyari sa mga anaerobic environments. Ang process na to, it involves oxidizing ammonia. So, again, oxidizing ammonia by using nitrite as electron acceptors, turning it into gaseous nitrogen. Actually, I'm so sorry. Into gaseous nitrogen. The first bacteria to have been discovered to do this is called Brocadia annamoxidans, which belongs to the Planctomycetes phylum of bacteria. This process contributes to a huge loss of nitrogen apart from denitrification. So, wala. Ayan. And yung next process, it's denitrification. So, nitrate to nitrite to nitrogen gas. Ayan. So, it is a process that converts nitrate back to nitrogen gas. However, in this process, some intermediate nitrogen gases form, such as nitrous oxide or N2O, a known greenhouse gas. So, greenhouse gas is a gas that has the ability to trap heat into the surface of the earth as we know it. And denitrification is going to produce this kind of greenhouse gas in the process of converting nitrate back to gaseous nitrogen. Just like nitrogen fixation, ang gagawin dito, ito ay nangyayari in a wide variety of prokaryotes such as Bacillus, Paracoccus, and Pseudomonas, as well as some eukaryotes. But unlike nitrification, it only happens anaerobically. Now, nitrogen and the environment. What is the implication of nitrogen to our environment? First is, nitrogen is a necessary component of most biomolecules. Remember, meron lang tayo actually apat na kinoconsider na pinaka mga importanteng mga elements that comprises biomolecules. You have carbon, we have hydrogen, we have oxygen, and then nitrogen. So these biomolecules include proteins, nucleic acids such as DNA, and some pigments such as chlorophyll. It is available in the form of organic such as amino and nucleic acids, as well as inorganic forms tulad ng nitrates at saka ng nitrites. For this reason, it is used by organisms for various applications such as growth and for the production of energy and for the genetic material, kasi DNA is the genetic material. Since the mid-1900s though, human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels and the making of fertilizers affect the cycle of nitrogen, fixing nitrogen, and then contributing to the activities of microorganisms, altering the available nitrogen in ecosystems, and it affects productivity. It was the Industrial Revolution that has actually a very big effect to this. In the case of denitrification, nitrogen that is stuck in land in the form of nitrate is cycled back to available nitrogen into the atmosphere for it to be fixed again. Likewise, anoxia or oxygen and hypoxia or low oxygen may happen to bodies of water, causing fish and shellfish mortality led by algal bloom. With the role that nitrogen is playing in the ecosystem, studies are being conducted to facilitate processes like nitrification. So, meron na tayong mga efforts to do the actual process ourselves, a process that happens in selected prokaryotes, including archaea, for water treatment. In terms of wastewater management, ammonia and nitrite oxidizers are being studied, and they're also being improved kung paano natin sila magagamit for our purpose. The next element we are going to talk about is oxygen. Oxygen is very important for us heterotrophic organisms kasi we need it for respiration. We are also familiar with its details such as its atomic number and atomic mass. It is found to be 1% in the entire universe and 0.59% in the solar system and 65% in the human body, and it makes up 21% of the Earth's atmosphere. It is very abundant in our bodies, and these are the other characteristics of oxygen. Oxygen cycle is quite simple. It's just like ito yung i-feature lang natin dito. Oxygen is produced as a byproduct of photosynthesis and is released into the air. Again, let me repeat that it is not the main product of photosynthesis. It is just a byproduct. All aerobic organism then picks up free-flying oxygen and use it for respiration. Plants or autotrophic photosynthetic organisms, they have the ability to release oxygen, and then tayo naman, we are going to use it, and then we'll be releasing carbon dioxide, which is needed by these autotrophic and photosynthetic organisms in turn. In exchange for oxygen gas, aerobic organisms such as us are doing just that. Okay, so some uses. Respiration is the first use of oxygen, obviously. It is a process done by aerobic organisms that includes the use of oxygen for bodily processes and then the giving off of carbon dioxide. In the decomposition of organisms, though, the process also requires oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. This process is common on Earth as all forms of organism decay to return nutrients back to the ground. In addition, ang combustion or yung pagsusunog is also made possible because of the presence of oxygen. Before yata, ang pinag-iisipan nila is that substance they called proglutin, if I'm not mistaken. Hindi ako sure. Pero there was like this reading na meron akong reading na nagsasabing merong dating substance na pinag-iisipan ng mga alchemists na present at nako-consume. At kapag naubos na yung substance na yun in the air, mamamatay na yung apoy. If I remember it well, it's proglutin, I am not sure. So this chemical process, along with rusting, it requires exposure to oxygen. Rusting, on the other hand, requires the presence of iron to take place. Kasi kung walang iron, walang iron oxide ng rust. And speaking of the devil, iron. Iron, as we know it, it's back. Okay? Bakal usually yung agad nating naisip dyan. Also, kung when it comes to females, iron deficiency because they need iron kasi they're losing a lot of blood. So, yeah, iron is a brittle, hard substance classified as a metal in group 8 on the periodic table of elements. It is the most abundant of all metals. Its pure form rapidly corrodes from exposure to moist air and high temperatures. Iron is also the fourth most common element in the Earth's crust by weight, and much of Earth's core is thought to be composed of iron. So yeah, remember that metals, they are conductors of electricity. Okay, in the case of iron, it is a hard substance. It can also be brittle. Okay, so hard to brittle yung ano niya. And then the reason why it corrodes with exposure to moist air is because of the presence of oxygen. Kapag may present oxygen, tas meron din present na water H2O, well, that is a good combination for iron oxide or rust. Ayan, so okay, and then the Earth's core is thought to be composed of mostly iron and nickel, making the core of the planet magnetic. Ayan, so those are just extra information that you may need to take note of. Now, iron in plants, it plays a role in the production of chlorophyll. In animals and man, it is a component of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein in the blood that carries oxygen from the lungs to the tissues in the body. If you have heard of this, ito rin yata yung yung nagpapa-red talaga sa blood natin. Kaya nga if you have iron deficiency, your blood is not really the kind of red that it's supposed to be, and you need to eat a lot of green foods because they are rich in green pigments, and thus they have a high level of iron. Okay, 90% of all metal that is refined these days is iron. Most of it is used to make steel. Steel, anyway, is not a metal. It's not an elemental metal. It is an alloy of iron and carbon, which in turn is used in manufacturing and civil engineering, for instance, to make reinforced concrete. If I'm not mistaken, stainless steel is chromium. I'm just not sure. Chromium and iron. You may look it up actually. Pero yeah, in my source kasi it says this one, so I just went with this one. Pero you may also actually see some alloys na involved ng iron, say with chromium. Meron din ba yung palladium yata? Palladium? I am not sure. Yan. So stainless steel, which contains at least 10.5% of chromium, yan, stainless steel, so I'm right, is highly resistant to corrosion. It is used in kitchen cutlery, appliance, and cookware, such as stainless steel pans and skillets. Yan. These two are the sources of iron. We have, major sources of iron, magnetite and hematite, or hematite. Iron is mostly contained from these minerals. In smaller degrees, it can also be obtained from taconite, from limonite, and from siderite or siderite. Di pa ako sure sa mga pronunciations ko yan. And so, iron deficiency. See, these are greens. Ayan, maraming chlorophyll yan. May mga iron, maltes ang iron ng mga yan. Iron deficiency can cause anemia and fatigue that affects the ability to perform physical work in adults. It can also impair memory and other mental function in teens. Mga babae or women, they have iron deficiency while pregnant, who have iron deficiency while pregnant are at an increased risk of having smaller early babies. So they really need to eat tons of, to consume tons of iron. Or at least yung talagang magiging enough lang for them. There are two types of dietary iron. There is a heme iron and non-heme iron. Heme iron, which is the more readily absorbed type of iron, is found in meat, in fish and poultry, whereas non-heme iron, which is also absorbed but to a lesser extent than heme iron, is found in both plant foods such as spinach, kale, broccoli, and meat. It's found in both plants and animals. People absorb up to 30% of heme iron compared to 2 to 10% of non-heme iron. Foods rich in vitamin C, such as tomatoes or citrus fruits, can help you absorb non-heme iron better. So when you eat iron-rich vegetables, make sure that you also drinking or eating some vitamin C-rich foods or drinks. Again, so this is the global iron cycle. We are going to use this in the next parts of our explanations. So yeah, iron circulates through the atmosphere, ayan, through the lithosphere, and then the hydrosphere, the oceans. It's made pretty obvious here. Even the cryosphere, actually. Cryosphere is it is a sphere. No, it is we are referring to the icy parts of the planet, cryosphere. It's spelled as CRYO, sphere. So iron in the ocean cycles between planktons, aggregated particulates, non-bioavailable iron, and dissolved free and ligand complex bioavailable iron, and it's deposited into sediments through burial. So let's see where that is here, yung explanation niya. So there is plankton. So between plankton and aggregated particulates, non-bioavailable iron, here is plankton. And it's going to be buried as sediment. Ayan. So again, planktons dissolved, and then particulates, and then iron, and then buried, and then they are buried as sediments. Hydrothermal vents, these release ferrous iron into the ocean, in addition to oceanic inputs from sediments. Sediments also input some iron. I hope you noticed those arrows. Sediments, glaciers. So glaciers, they're also contributing. Rivers, runoff rivers, deposition, contributing as well. And atmospheric dust. Atmospheric dust contributing as well. Iron reaches the atmosphere through the stochastic volcanism Aeolian wind. So stochastic stochastic volcanism, iron reaches the atmosphere through that, and then Aeolian wind. So Aeolian wind also, and to a lesser extent through combustion by humans. So itong tulad nitong ship na to, combustion, human use, So how does it reach the atmosphere? Okay, 3 ways: volcanism, Aeolian winds, human use, And then dito naman sa ocean talaga marami siya, So rivers, meron siya. Atmospheric dust, meron siya. So from glaciers, meron din siya. From hydrothermal vents, meron din siya. Marami siyang sources. In the Anthropocene, iron is removed from the crust through mining, with a portion redeposited in slag, landfills, and other waste repositories and nutrients in high nutrient, low chlorophyll regions of the ocean. A critical component of the iron cycle is the Aeolian dust. This one, atmospheric Aeolian dust, which is transported from the Earth's land via the atmosphere to the ocean. The ocean is a critical component of the Earth's climate system, and the iron cycle plays a key role in oceanic primary productivity and marine ecosystem function. Remember, while planktons are contributing to this, they're also taking up some iron. The largest supply of iron to the ocean is from the rivers, where it is suspended as a sediment. Okay, other major sources of iron into the ocean include the glacial particulates from here, glacial particulates, atmospheric dust, transport, and hydrothermal vents. So, marami from the rivers. Iron supply is an important factor affecting the growth of phytoplankton, the base of marine food web. Uptake of iron by phytoplankton leads to lowest iron concentrations in surface seawater. Remineralization here of sinking phytoplankton by zooplankton and bacteria recycles iron causes higher deep water iron concentrations. Therefore, the upwelling zones, they are containing more iron than the areas of surface ocean. So, yung mga nasa ilalim pa na parts, yung mga nag-upwell, yung nagra-rise, they're containing more iron than those parts of the ocean that are near the surface. Shallow waters. The iron cycle is an important component of the terrestrial ecosystems. The fierce form of iron, which is F2, is dominant in the Earth's mantle, core, and deep crust, as it was said a while ago. The ferric form naman is more stable in the presence of oxygen gas. Dust is a key component in the Earth's iron cycle. Chemical and biological weathering breaks down iron-bearing minerals or rocks, okay, releasing the nutrient into the atmosphere. Iron can be deposited into the process of the rock cycle, actually, in that particular process, burial. And then once it gets inside the volcanoes, then that iron is still going to be iron, and then it's going to be returned back to the surface through volcanic activities. Volcanic eruptions are also a key contributor to the terrestrial iron cycle. Releasing iron-rich dust into the atmosphere is either a large burst or in smaller spurts over time. The atmospheric transport of iron-rich dust can impact the ocean concentrations. The next one is carbon cycle. Carbon, as you have heard na siguro, is the basis. Not really the foundation. It lays the foundation for life. Okay, so carbon is life, parang ganun. You're also familiar with the fact that it comprises most organic compounds in the form of hydrocarbons, and that it is found in it is the most abundant element in most organisms. Okay, it is the fourth most common element on Earth. And we have here hydrogen, helium, oxygen, and carbon. Its atomic structures allows it to bind up to 4 other elements at once. Meron kasi siyang 4 na mga valence electrons, free electrons. This makes carbon very important for living things. It is a building block of life. Ayan. So it is cycled across various spheres. So same lang din with the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, and then the lithosphere. In talking about its cycling, keep in mind the source-sink concept. Source is an area where carbon is easily removed. Sink is an area where carbon is not easily removed and therefore can build up over time. So source, sink. In the carbon cycle, atoms move to and from these source and sink areas all the time. Movement can happen at very different time scales, from hours to millions of years. Now, how does carbon move? It can move through diffusion, photosynthesis, respiration, combustion, and even sedimentation, as well as erosion. Now, through this diffusion, this is an illustration of diffusion. So, dimolecules are going to just diffuse from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. This is also something that carbon can do. Photosynthesis naman, plants can use up carbon dioxide to produce glucose, or store it into starch, and then oxygen as a byproduct. Photosynthesis can happen in autotrophic and photosynthetic organisms. And then in respiration, it is the metabolism of sugar, such as glucose, to produce chemical energy for growth and reproduction. One of the major byproducts is carbon dioxide gas, right here. Ayan. So this process involves glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and even the electron transport chain. All living things respire, both plants and even animals. The next way in which carbon is cycled, it's through combustion. Carbon is locked in living and dead organic matter under proper conditions of heat and oxygen rapidly oxidizing or burning. This releases energy in the form of heat and produces gases such as carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Erosion and sedimentation naman, they are going to be explained here, as actually I mentioned kanina ito. Erosion. It is a process with which particles of soil are washed into the water. Tapos the water is just going to carry these tiny sediments, and then they're going to just stick to each other, and that process is called sedimentation. They're going to accumulate, okay, as one. They'll have this gathering of sediments, and that is it. I know that we actually have more elements to cycle, or to talk about. Their cycles are really important to say phosphorus and sulfur cycle. However, I would like to remind you that I'm going to use this as a video lesson for junior high school students, so I don't really see the need so far to discuss phosphorus and sulfur cycle, because in our curriculum guide, actually, wala man yung isa eh. If I'm not mistaken, we are not supposed to talk about what cycle is that? Iron cycle? Yeah, we're not supposed to talk about iron cycle, if I'm not mistaken. I just included it because, it's still fun to know about it. That's it, ayan. The Knowledge Catalog is a brand being developed by yours truly. I am Carlos Joseph Malapas, and I am a high school teacher in the Philippines. I love developing content that I find useful and needed to better my instruction. Your support is well appreciated, and then if you want to like this video, then please do so, and then if you want to subscribe to this channel, then please do so as well.